My name is Dawn Whitaker, and I'm 35 years old. I used to believe weddings were about love, unity, and family standing beside you on the most important day of your life. But my wedding proved me wrong, and the truth hit harder than I ever imagined. The ceremony that day was beautiful on the beach in San Diego with my husband by my side and my grandmother walking me down the aisle. The cheers, the golden sunset, everything was perfect, except for the two empty seats where my parents should have been. I believed their excuse for not coming, but just a few days later, photos from Hawaii said everything they chose somewhere else, someone else, and left me behind on my own wedding day. And then, they sent money to apologize. I sent it back with a cold message: keep the money. You'll need it for what's coming next. If you've ever been betrayed by family, leave a comment below. Would you forgive? Or cut them off? I want to hear your story. A few months before the wedding, planning kicked off with all my hopes pinned on making it perfect despite the tight budget. As a preschool teacher in San Diego, I dove into DIY details with Blaine, sketching handwritten vows on note cards and crafting party favors from seashells we collected ourselves. The beach venue felt right: sunset views, simple arch of driftwood, nothing fancy but full of our story. We budgeted every penny, skipping big florals for wildflowers from a local market and enlisting friends for the cake bake-off. My parents, back in Tucson, ran a small leather goods store, hand-stitching belts and wallets for tourists hitting the desert trails. They were always quick to brag about my older sister Kendra's success, how she built her own boutique in Hawaii with her husband and kids in tow, turning it into a go-to spot for custom bags. Family dinners on rare visits turned into Kendra highlight reels, her latest expansion. The praise from local influencers, while my teaching job got a polite nod at best. When I called with the wedding news, their reaction landed flat over the line. Mom Amber complained her arthritis was flaring worse in the dry Arizona heat, making long drives or flights a no-go. Dad Chad jumped in about store pressures, summer crowds, overwhelming inventory, and forcing late-night stitching orders. "We're happy for you, Dawn," Mom said, but the tone dragged like an obligation, no excitement about flying out or helping with setup. Those conversations stirred up old memories I tried to push down, like the time they funded Kendra's business startup with a hefty loan from store profits, flying over multiple times to help stock shelves, but skipped my college graduation because the shop couldn't close. Or birthdays where Kendra's gifts dwarfed mine, designer leather from their stock, for her a generic card for me with promises of something later that never came. Dad once said Kendra's drive inspired him, implying I needed to hustle more like her. Blaine stayed my anchor through it all, joining planning calls to brainstorm guest lists and rehearsal dinner spots at a casual taco stand. He sensed my frustration after hanging up with them, rubbing my shoulders while I vented about the favoritism pattern. "Focus on us," he'd say, pulling out spreadsheets for costs. Still, I crafted detailed emails outlining logistics: direct flights from Tucson to San Diego under 2 hours, hotel blocks near the beach, even offers to pay for comfortable shuttles or mobility aids for Mom's joints. The disconnect built quietly. Holiday cards from them featured Kendra's family photos, front and center captions gushing over her kids' milestones, while mentions of my life felt tacked on. I double-checked RSVPs, attaching venue maps and dietary menus, hoping the concrete plans would sway them. Dad replied once with a vague, "We'll see how health holds," Mom echoing worries about desert-to-coast travel aggravating her condition. Their store's busy season loomed as the ultimate excuse: peak sales from hikers needing durable gear. Blaine and I walked the beach site one evening, marking spots for chairs, and the aisle runner, his hand in mine, steadying the doubts. I texted them photos of the setup, asking for input on seating for Tucson relatives. Silence stretched, broken only by a group chat ping from Kendra sharing her Hawaii sunset pics, Dad commenting hearts, Mom adding praise. It stung, that easy engagement with her world versus the effort I poured into invites. Through vendor meetings and dress fittings, I clung to optimism, printing custom invites with beach motifs and sealing them with wax stamps. Blaine proofed our vows aloud in the living room, his words about building a future grounding me. Yet emails piled up unanswered, their store's online shop updates, flooding my feed with new leather arrivals Kendra tagged in promo posts. The pattern whispered louder always, her spotlight my shadows. In the final weeks, my pleas turned frantic as deadlines loomed. I dialed them daily, voice cracking, while outlining last-minute flights in wheelchair-accessible vans from Tucson airports. Mom kept repeating her arthritis locked her joints stiff, no way to endure the turbulence or coastal humidity shift. Dad piled on about urgent store orders, stacking up custom saddles for ranchers delayed by supply chain hits in the desert heat, forcing him to man the workbench nonstop. "It's just not feasible, Dawn." He sighed each time hanging up before I could push harder on alternatives like train rides or extended stays. The wedding morning dawned clear salt air mixing with floral scents as guests arrived. Grandma Muriel Tate linked arms with me for the aisle walk, her grip firm and whispers encouraging through the veil. The sand shifted underfoot waves, providing a soft backdrop to our exchange of rings. Tucson family spots sat vacant amid the folding chairs, a glaring void that friends politely ignored. Blaine pulled me into dances under string lights, post-vows, his laughter drawing cheers during toasts about our shared adventures. Speeches flowed with inside jokes from our dating days, plates of grilled seafood circulating freely. Yet I darted glances toward the entrance path, convincing myself they might rush in late with apologies and flowers, turning the gap into a minor hiccup. Evening wound down with cleanup chats, everyone hugging goodbye under the stars. Back home, crashing on the couch, I grabbed my phone for mindless scrolls to shake off the fatigue. Notifications pulled me to Instagram stories first, a vague repost, then full reels of palm trees and ocean blues. There they were, parents beaming in floral shirts beside Kendra's family, at a beachside luau plates piled with roast pig and leis draped around necks. Swiping further revealed yacht deck shots, them toasting with pineapple drinks, while Kendra's kids splashed in the background. Captions raved about recharging bonds, geotags, pinning exact Hawaii spots. Timestamps overlapped my ceremony hour by hour, the yacht cruise aligning with our vow recitals. My stomach twisted, fingers trembling as I pinched to zoom on their relaxed poses, no trace of illness in sight. Rage boiled over, I hit redial without thinking, phone pressed tight to ear. Mom picked up first tone, shifting from surprise to stutter when I demanded explanations. It was a last-minute thing Kendra set up for family reconnection. She fumbled Dad, chiming in background about how the invite came sudden after store slowdowns. They claimed ignorance of conflicts until takeoff, then health excuses held water for backing out. "We didn't want to disappoint you more," Dad added weakly, but the yacht glamour mocked every word. I pressed on the details, voice rising about the arthritis vanishing mid-vacation. Mom deflected to Kendra's need for parental backup during her busy season. Dad, muttering store profits, funded the trip as a deserved break. Their stammers grew excuses, layering like bad patchwork, unexpected fares, spontaneous bookings, anything to dodge the core choice they made. The call dragged with half admissions, them insisting it wasn't intentional neglect. Blaine walked in mid-conversation, seeing my face and mouthing questions. I waved him quiet, grilling them on why no cancellation text during the event. Silence stretched before Mom whispered regret, Dad promising to explain in person soon. Hanging up left me hollow, the screen still open to those carefree frames clashing against my aisle solitude. A couple days after that heated call, a plain envelope from Tucson showed up on my doorstep. Inside sat a check for $10,000 folded neatly with a store-bought card featuring stock newlywed icons and a printed message about eternal bliss. No handwritten lines, just signatures from Mom and Dad squeezed at the bottom as if the amount could erase their no-show and smooth over the Hawaii escape. The memo line read, "Wedding gift," hitting like a calculated fix for guilt without real effort. I sat at the kitchen table staring at it, pen in hand, drafting my response right then. The letter poured out pages money couldn't replace their presence at the vows, or fill those chairs. And I wove in the verbal promises about the leather store inheritance, how they once said it would go to me as the younger one needing steady roots after teaching gigs. I typed up old texts and notes from family talks where Dad floated the idea during store visits, emphasizing stability over Kendra's flashier path. Sealed it with the check-enclosed address stamped back to their Tucson shop. Blaine peeked over my shoulder as I printed, nodding along to the firm tone rejecting any buy-off vibe. "This feels right," he said, suggesting we snap a photo of the envelope before mailing for records. He agreed it screamed bribery, a quick cash drop to quiet backlash without facing the favoritism core. Grandma Muriel Tate rang from her California spot that afternoon, checking on honeymoon vibes and casually asking how the folks handled travel woes. I unloaded everything, the Instagram slips, the 6-story crumbling under timestamps full breach, laid bare with screenshots forwarded over. Her intake breath said it all. She promised discretion, but couldn't hide the outrage and follow-ups about years of slanted attention toward Kendra. Word rippled fast through Arizona kin once Muriel looped in cousins during her next coffee chat. Texts flooded my phone, one aunt recalling Dad gifting Kendra prime store leather scraps for her Hawaii startup while I got hand-me-down tools. A cousin venting about skipped invites to my events but front row for Kendra's openings. "We've seen this coming." Another message sharing a group thread where relatives pieced together the pattern from holidays where Kendra dominated toasts. Parents circled back via phone midweek, Dad leading with defenses on the Hawaii jaunt as duty to Kendra's thriving venture, how her success pulled them in for advisory roles on inventory trends. Mom backed him, framing it as balanced parenting for the high-achiever daughter versus my steady routine. "We thought the check showed care." Dad pressed voice-edged when I mentioned the return already in transit. Their push for acceptance clashed against my calm breakdown of broken store handover talks, them dodging with vague, "We'll revisit wills later." To capture it all, I switched my phone to record mode discreetly, letting their justifications roll. Kendra's business demands justifying flight store margins tight, but her expansions inspiring enough for loans I never saw. Dad referenced specific ledgers from Tucson books, claiming profits dipped unless they networked via her contacts. Mom interjected about emotional pulls, Kendra's kids needing grandparent time amid her workload. The tape ran long, their tones mixing defensiveness with pleas for understanding the big picture, favoritism as motivation, not neglect. Blaine joined the line midway, his questions sharpening the exchange on why inheritance chats shifted silently. They hemmed about legal tweaks for Kendra's growth potential, Dad admitting off-record store value tied more to her marketing savvy. Hanging up, I saved the file labeled with dates, stacking it with letter copies and family texts as proof of the long favoritism arc from unequal college funds to vacation priors, favoring her aisle life. Cousins kept pinging with solidarity, one digging up old emails where Mom praised Kendra's hustle in newsletters while glossing my classroom wins. An uncle offered to mediate, but backed my stance after hearing recording snippets. Muriel followed with voice notes affirming the spread her network in Arizona, bridging gaps to more relatives, questioning the store's future ties. The returned package tracking pinged en route, my letter's words echoing in mind presence over payouts, accountability for promises. Blaine helped organize folders of evidence, his input on probate basics from online reads calming the storm. Parents follow text begged for check details, but I left read receipts silent, letting the weight build. Family chain mails circulated anonymized story bits. Aunts drafting supportive notes on shared drives. One cousin recalled Dad's workbench stories, always looping to Kendra's custom orders, sidelining my rare store help days. The buzz grew, organic relatives piecing favoritism puzzles without my direct push. About a week after mailing the letter, a knock echoed at the door, unannounced. I peered through the peephole to see Mom Amber and Dad Chad standing there, faces drawn from the long-haul drive across deserts and highways from Tucson. Dust clung to their clothes, eyes shadowed like they hadn't slept much, pleading to come in for a face-to-face talk away from phone barriers. Blaine let them through to the living room, tension thick as they sank into chairs clutching water bottles. They launched into explanations right away, Dad starting on Kendra's sudden financial crunch, with her Hawaii boutique supplier costs spiking, forcing emergency loans they wired overnight to keep shelves stocked. Mom nodded, describing the torn pull between us two blood daughters, Kendra's pleas, hitting harder amid her family responsibilities, while my life seemed more self-sufficient. We felt obligated, Dad said, hands gesturing the impossible choice of splitting time and resources evenly. I countered with a rundown of the favoritism track record starting with sophomore year, when they slashed my tuition payments to cover Kendra's trade show trips for leather sourcing contacts. Birthdays amplified it too, her packages overflowing with high-end store prototypes, twice the size of my modest envelopes. Dad once joking her ambition earned extras. High school awards ceremonies saw them absent for my honors, but present for Kendra's early business pitches pattern, repeating in family newsletters, skewed her way. Amber owned up to the joint pain being real, but admitted the Hawaii air and activities dulled the store grind temporarily, a rare reset amid Tucson orders piling. Chad built on that, insisting Kendra merited the priority for her grind, late nights prototyping client hunts that boosted family pride, unlike my classroom routine. She's pushing boundaries we admire, he argued, voice firm on her deserving the edge in support. Blaine sat beside me, his presence bolstering as I laid out boundaries sharp and final. No more tolerating fabrications about commitments, demanding true ownership of actions before any reconnection talks. Show change through deeds, not drives. I stated, eyes locked on theirs during the ultimatum. The room hung heavy with my terms, space to heal proof via balanced decisions or permanent distance. They absorbed it, Mom tearing up over missteps in equity, Dad conceding will revisions for fair store shares beyond Kendra's claims. We'll consult the lawyer next week, he vowed, sketching rough asset splits on a napkin to demonstrate intent. Amber echoed, fixing the ledger, promising outreach to relatives for unified fronts. Departure dragged with awkward hugs, attempted air unresolved as they loaded back into the car for the return trek. Dad paused at the threshold, reiterating the will overhaul to include my stake explicitly. Mom adding apologies for the drive not bridging gaps fully. Blaine closed the door behind them. The engine fade, leaving echoes of unfulfilled assurances. I paced the space they vacated, replaying their admissions on Kendra's merit versus my stability. Blaine brewed tea, discussing how their napkin plan rang hollow without drafts. The visit stirred fresh resolve, their haggard arrival, underscoring desperation over sincerity. Neighbors waved unknowingly as their taillights vanished the desert route ahead, mirroring the emotional miles uncrossed. Right after they drove off, I pulled up the family Facebook group on my laptop. Fingers flew across keys, compiling a full timeline, post screenshots of Hawaii posts, overlapping the wedding sick excuses debunked by timestamps. The returned check scan, blurred for privacy, layered with archived evidence of Kendra favoritism, like uneven holiday allocations and skipped milestones. I captioned it, straightforward facts on the table for accountability, no spins. Notifications exploded within minutes, Grandma Muriel leading with heart emojis and a comment thread on how she'd long noticed the tilt toward Kendra's wins, sharing her own tales of parents prioritizing the outgoing sibling in gatherings. Cousins chimed in with parallels, one detailing Dad's favoritism in assigning store chores, where Kendra got creative designs while they handled grunt work. Aunts recalled vacations rerouted to Kendra's interests, leaving others sidelined. Kendra slid into my DMs hours later, firing off defenses on parents' Tucson store strains from seasonal slumps, accusing me of selfishness for rejecting the check gesture. They're exhausted keeping the business afloat, and you throw it back ungrateful, she typed, painting their Hawaii as a brief morale boost amid ledgers in red. Her words dug at family loyalty, insisting my independence blinded me to their sacrifices for her path. My response stayed measured, zeroing in on deeds defining bonds over delayed compensations or verbal fixes, real presence and equity in decisions not cash drops, or island getaways masking choices. Prove family through consistency. I hit send, attaching no attachments, letting the core stand without escalating. Whispers hit Tucson circles by next morning. Loyal store patrons spotting the group leak and venting on Yelp with one-star drags on the favoritism scandal tainting product trust. Reviews piled, heard the owners ditch daughter's wedding for sibling trip can't support hypocrisy. One ex-customer wrote citing leather quality drop from distracted management. Another slammed service delays tied to family drama priorities, vowing boycotts in desert forums. Blaine took shifts monitoring the influx refreshing feeds to flag supportive waves from extended kin praising my stand. Breathe through it, he advised during peaks pulling me from screens to walk the block, his scans catching troll attempts early. Comments swelled positive relatives vowing distance from parents until a men's one uncle polling group on inheritance fairness. Yelp threads branched to local AZ pages, hikers debating boycotts over ethics store ratings, sliding as word of mouth soured repeat business. Kendra fired back publicly in comments downplaying as private spat, but backlash grew with shares tagging the shop. Muriel moderated her circle's inputs, steering to constructive calls for parents' reflection. Blaine bookmarked key posts for potential legal notes, his calm filtering noise amid the digital storm. Group admins locked heated exchanges, but core narrative stuck favoritism exposed, eroding the store's community rep. A few weeks of radio silence built pressure, then Grandma called with bombshell updates, straight from Arizona grapevine. She described their blowout fight escalating over Kendra bias, Mom blasting Dad for consistently elevating the older daughter above me in every resource call. Voices raised in the store back room, Amber pointing to years of skewed checks, where Kendra's ventures drained funds while my needs got footnotes, Chad defending it as investing in proven drive. The leather shop tanked hard from those Yelp bombs, one-stars cascading as desert locals shunned the counter-hikers, canceling bulk orders reviews, blasting management distraction from family rifts, eroding craftsmanship trust. Foot traffic dried up in Tucson heat shelves, gathering dust as word spread through rancher networks boycotting over perceived hypocrisy. My lawyer reached out unprompted, forwarding archived emails where Dad explicitly pledged the store to Dawn for the stability you deserve as the grounded one, contrasting Kendra's risks. But the recent will flipped it to her notarized quietly amid her expansion pitches, citing her business acumen as fit successor. Armed with deception logs and favoritism docs from relatives' Arizona probate court. Ruled in my favor, swift, fraudulent intent, in the switch proven by timelines and witness statements, ownership deed transferring straight to me without contest drag. The judge noted verbal promises held weight against the late alterations. Kendra exploded in fury, severing ties with parents over the lost inheritance windfall, stranding them amid mounting business debts from unpaid suppliers and lease hikes. No more Hawaii remittances, their isolation deepened in empty Tucson aisles. I initiated full blocks across phones, emails, and socials, enforcing the cutoff to safeguard my inner calm from further pulls. Around a month after the court ruling, my energy turned fully toward what lay ahead. Blaine and I closed on a cozy bungalow in San Diego suburbs, painting walls and planting succulents to craft our safe haven, leaning on close friends for weekend barbecues and game nights that filled the space with genuine laughter. Grandma Muriel wove in seamlessly her visits, sparking impromptu family barbecues where stories flowed without old weights. She hosted low-key gatherings with select relatives, backyard pots of chili and board games fostering bonds that helped unpack the favoritism scars from kid days' quiet talks on the patio, dissecting how early slights shaped trust issues, her gentle prompts leading to breakthroughs without judgment. Parents sank into Tucson solitude, the store shuttering for good amid bankruptcy filings and community pullback auction signs on windows signaling end to decades of stitching amid empty lots. Kendra hunkered down solo in Hawaii, cut off from any kin aid post-dispute her boutique weathering storms without the expected backup. Boundaries hit early became my shield against vicious cycles of bias, self-value, the lockout key to dodging repeats. True kin show up steady, cherish those who truly see your worth.